Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and this is the October 18, 2022 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. We have some announcements to make before we start. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Seeing none. Pursuant to Governor Baker's July 16, 2022 signing of an act relative to
Should I say, I
extending
can't hear?
certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency,
What?
including the
I
extension.
can't hear you.
I'm sorry, Jane, did you have something to say? Thank you.
Hello?
Okay. And
I
where
can't
was I?
hear.
Jane, including the extension of his March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A-20 until March 31st, 2023. This meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted both in person and via remote participation and shall afford adequate alternative means of public access via Microsoft Teams by calling the phone number 508-945-4410, conference ID 376-582-587, hashtag, or by joining the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through a link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we will not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Okay, we got that out of the way. The first business item here is a roll call. Vice Chair, Mr. Lear.
Yes, here.
Mr. Burlingame.
Here.
Ben Smolzinski. Ben's not here. Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Jane Moffett.
Frank, I can't hear you.
Jane.
She can't hear.
I can't hear. It's
Mark?
Jane.
Can you find out what's going on? She said she can't hear us. Jane, can you see me?
Well, now what are we gonna do?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
On her end, she'll have to figure it out. I'll
No.
dismiss her from the meeting.
Maybe just waved at somebody.
It's on her end, Frank.
Oh,
It's on her
can you
website.
call in?
It's on her end. It's nothing.
How about this, calling in?
She
Calling
probably,
in the number. Huh?
Christina, can you call her and let her know?
Okay.
Okay.
Just to start over.
At this particular
What shall I
point,
do?
I'm going to assume Jane is here, although she's not completely hearing. Don Aikman?
Here.
Sandy Porter, absent, and Janet Tennyson?
here.
Okay, and the chair is here. So we have a quorum, and Janet, you will be voting in place of Ben Solozinski? So Janet is an alternate, which normally participate but doesn't vote except when an actual member is missing. Having said that, got a couple of quick announcements. Unfortunately, I had hoped that we'd have a special presentation by our preservation consultant, Eric Dre, reviewing the South Chatham Village National Register Historic District application. It was a very nice presentation. He did it at the South Chatham Village Association. There was some great video, and pictures, and I thought it would be, it's almost like a tutorial for us. And Eric called me this morning. He tested positive for COVID. So we're going to postpone that. Okay. The other item is the minutes before we can get started. We have the minutes of October 4th, 2022. There are a couple of items which we've already noted. The first page, it says agenda, it should say minutes. And on page 2, relative to 305 Main Street, the motion was not made by Mr. Lear. And does anybody remember who did it? If not, Christina will check the video. Okay? Having said that, can I get a motion accepting the minutes if there are no other further changes?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Aikman, second
Second.
by By Janet, okay. No other discussion? Sorry, I missed something? Simultaneous, okay. Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Jane. Still can't hear it. I'm gonna vote, not vote. Don Aikman,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Being Jane is not hearing, I assume we're gonna have to consider her as not participating at this point. Yes, ma'am?
I just got off the phone with her. She's going to try to call in.
gonna try
So if
and
you
call
could
in?
address her maybe moving forward for a couple times. She's on the phone.
I can,
Oh,
I can hear you, Frank.
we got it.
You can hear us?
Yes, now I can.
All right, very good. So we're gonna consider you present.
I'm here.
All right,
And
thank
Reed's
you.
trying to get on. I guess the problem's at our end.
All right, thank you very much.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay, we have two public hearings. First one is 22014, Chapter 158, demolition delay bylaw, partial demolition, 37 Seaview. There was a site visit yesterday. A number of us made that visit. Who's presenting? Mr. Riley, Mr. Rick Roy? At the meeting, at the site visit, we were presented an alternate plan, and that the plan that was submitted with the application by Katuitt Bay Design is no longer valid?
That's correct.
Okay, so if the members could just get rid of that. And we received yesterday, and again this morning, a revised plan by Rick Roy Construction. And that's the one that we will consider. Quite honestly, as part of the discussion that we had, Mr. Riley, there is no Form B for this particular property.
That's correct, and we don't know for sure when the building was built.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We don't know for sure when the building was built.
You don't have to speak that loud. You don't know for surely what?
Thank you. So it was built sometime in the late 1940s. So for the purposes of not arguing, we decided that we were subject to your jurisdiction.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. We understand that. But having said that, in addition to that, the survey which was done by the Historical Commission's consultant listed it as a no priority in terms of a Form B, which meant basically, in his opinion, it was built in 1935. That's his assessment, and that's the Mass Historic's assessment, and that it was a reproduction cape. So technically, there was limited historical significance of the property. So let me just put that aside a second,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Normally, we would just have a discussion, well, we would have vote historically significant, it's not, then we move on. But I just would like, because we do have a revised plan, Rick, can you go through that for a second?
Yeah, so basically, all that happened is if you looked at the original plan, they basically put a full stud on the second floor and then threw a 6-pitch roof or an 8-pitch roof on top of it, which made the ridge line of the addition much higher than the original structure. And it's a typical cape, it's a reproduction of a typical cape. So I checked with the owners and said, I don't understand why we don't build it like a conventional cape. And so a conventional cape is built with the dormers and the second floor roof system actually being built, or the second floor walls being built within the roof system, which is what I show on this elevation, which reduced the height of the ridge of that section that's to be added by like
Okay.
6 feet. So it's more in keeping with the style of the house. Everything else stays the same, the footprint is the same, the dormer across the back is the same. This was just to give an example of what it would look like if we just built it as a traditional cape.
Okay. All right. why don't we then go backwards a bit and just address the issue of historical significance and put that aside? Given this situation relative to no Form B and the evaluation, does anybody have an opinion relative to historical significance? Yes, Mr. Lear?
I do not think it is historically significant.
Okay.
There's nothing special about it.
I agree. I think we seem to have a consensus there. So we could probably entertain a motion. Mr. Lear?
I could. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission find that the building located at 37 Seaview Street is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2, A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
I'll second.
Second by Stephanie. Any other comments from the public or any members of the commission? Seeing none. Roll call, Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much, we appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
And Rick, I really appreciate, that's a nicer looking house than it would have been.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. They should all be this short and sweet. Okay, application 22015, be heard in accordance with chapter 158, the demolition delay bylaw. 28 Cranberry Lane. Michael Ford. You don't look like Michael.
No, Jeffrey Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better looking than Mike. Well, we had a site visit yesterday. A number of us were there. Hopefully, the other members got a chance to find it, which was interesting.
It's in a tricky
If you
spot.
found it, it's just one of those typical little lanes in Chatham. And we have a situation again where there's no Form B, but why don't you proceed, Jeff, sorry.
Sure. So the current owners, this was a family house that goes back to since when it was built, the grandparents and then their parents, and they've inherited it through the estate. And, you know, full disclosure, we indicated up front as well in our narrative, and I think you spoke about it yesterday too, they are looking to sell the property. We fully understand how the bylaw works, and we understand that any determination made by your commission is non-transferable, but, you know, we're looking forward at the future here, not sure whether it will sell, whether it does, and just weighing out the options here. And first and foremost, we tried to get an idea of whether or not it would be deemed to be historically significant. We didn't seem to think it was based on the research, and you've indicated what you have. So we ended up going forward with the filing for a full demolition with the understanding that if it does sell to another person, any determination we get today, they would need to come in on their own and go through a similar exercise. So that's what we filed.
Okay. Well, again, as I said, we did a site visit. No question, this is a like 1930s reproduction. And again, the preservation consultant indicated no in terms of doing a Form B. So any other comments or questions relative to historical significance? Steph? No? Okay.
Hearing nothing, I will make a motion that there is no
Absolutely.
historical
Why don't you
significance to the
proceed?
property.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Could you say it again?
I've moved that we determine that the property is not of any historical significance.
Could you?
Second. Jane.
Okay. In the future, do me a favor, Steve, add those other words to it, you know, relative to why it's not historically significant. You know, the
Yeah,
words
unmute
of,
because-
does not
you
meet
know.
any definitional criteria of A, B, C of the bylaw. Okay?
I'll accept that amendment.
Thank you very much. Okay, we got a motion, we got a second, no other questions or comments?
Maybe you heard me.
Roll call, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Steve?
Yes, but I have a question,
Sure.
which has nothing to do with the application. In reading the deed and
Yep.
looking at the maps provided, is there any legal access to this parcel?
Yep, they have access. It goes back through the land court, and they have access where their driveway is onto the property, and it goes back to the beginning over there. So they go back a long way there, but it is where you enter at the driveway is where their access is on the property, so.
But it's an easement as opposed to,
Yeah, it goes back. It's way back in the title, so,
very well, thank you.
yep.
Okay, Steph?
Yes, I have a question too. Is this something that would be deemed demolition by neglect?
When and if we ever do that, you know, let's talk about that.
Okay,
Okay?
yes.
All right, Steph, yes? Jane?
Yes.
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 Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate your, and, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. You guys are trying to get me. Okay, coming and going. All right, well,
Hey,
thank you very much,
Thank you so much
Jeff.
for your time. I appreciate it.
Say hello to your father.
I will.
Okay. Moving right along, we may set a record, maybe not. Okay, we have a couple of new business items. And basically, I was told or heard that there were a couple of applicants who were thinking about making a community preservation application. And in discussion, I suggested they come to the Historical Commission to review the concept, that they didn't necessarily have to have a completed application, but they were looking for some input relative to the historical significance. So having said that, there were two members in the agenda. One is Ms. Barbara Burrow, if you can come forward. And she's representing the South Chatham Village Library. And you have before you an abstract of Barbara's concept, in addition to some information relative to the history of the South Chatham Village Library. So Barbara, why don't you can either read or paraphrase your presentation, whatever's easiest for you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Barbara Borrell, and I'm president of the Board of Directors for the South Chatham Library, which in 2 years, 2024, we're going to celebrate our 150th year of operation. It will be our 90th year in our current location. And as such, we are looking towards having a big birthday party with a building that is safe and secure and intact. To this end, we've started some work on updating our heating and air conditioning systems. This is something that we're doing in conjunction with Mass Saves, and we will be providing the funds as a board to that end. We hope that this work will be done by January of 2023. The second part of the project is to replace our roof, to reshingle our siding, and to make the building accessible. At the current time, a majority of our patrons are seniors, and we have a very narrow door which has steps into it, and especially during the winter time, this is a real issue. So we are going to go to the community preservation folks and ask them for support to do our roof, do our siding, and do our accessible entrance. The building itself was built through public funds in 1934, which was quite an achievement given that funds started being raised in 1930.
It's okay, go ahead.
Okay. And the building itself was, as I said, done and completed in 1934. It's one of 6 institutional buildings in the South Chatham Historic District, and it is one of the 3 buildings in Chatham that are of the colonial revival format are the only 3 in Chatham that exist. So South Chatham has 6 of these institutional buildings, and 3 of them are colonial revival, and all 3 are in South Chatham. I don't know if any of you have been in our little library, but it is a little library. We're about 340 square feet. The last renovations were done in 1996. Our heating system was done in the 1980s. And we're just looking for support to offset the cost of doing this renovation and to maintain the streetscape that we have as part of the South Chatham Historic District. In the picture that I put in your pamphlet, I just looked at it yesterday, and it looks like the library is a mini-me of the South Chatham Village Hall.
Yeah, I never noticed that
Yeah,
myself.
I never noticed it myself. I'm going, my God, it's a junior version of it. We're hoping to keep the facade of the building the same. We just need to widen the door and make the entrance more accessible. We've received one bid so far, and that ranges from approximately 66,000 to 79,000, the variance being whether or not we would go for red cedar shingles on the roof, or whether we would do the architectural shingles. And that's something that we're coming to this commission to ask advice about, because historically, they did have the red cedar shingles, but for quite some time, it hasn't had the red shingles. I'd be glad to answer any questions about the project. It looks like it would take at most 2 months to complete once we got the funds. And as I said, this will be part of our project to address our 150th birthday.
Okay, just a couple of quick questions. So basically, the South Chatham Village Library is going to fund the HVAC and the electrical upgrade,
Yes, sir.
and you're looking for funds for the exterior, architectural details, the roof and the siding.
Correct.
You know, it's consistent because, from my perspective, this is a contributing structure in the National Register District, the recently designated National Register
August,
District.
yep.
And there's no question, like you said, the anniversary coming up. And from my perspective also, there certainly is precedence, for that kind of exterior renovation work. And hopefully, in my opinion, the CPC committee would look kindly on it. But, and again, what do you think roughly, how many, not that we're involved with funding, but, I mean, how much you think you're going to spend on the HVAC?
Well, we don't have electricity right now, nor have we ever had electricity. We feed off the church. So in order to put the HVAC system in, we had to get electricity. So part of the cost of it, which is approximately $4,000, is just bringing in electricity from the streets. The HVAC itself is approximately $6,000, and we will get approximately $3,500 of that back from Mass Saves.
Oh, great. And so, and the exterior work, roughly, what do you think?
The exterior without the cedar shingles was approximately $63,300, and with the red cedar shingles, it was $78,000.
Okay.
Difference of
Those are all the numbers
$15,000.
you need. Stephanie is our representative from the Historical Commission on the CPC, so.
Sure.
Do you almost have the application ready? Because we
Yes.
changed it.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you.
It is almost done, except we're going to tweak it just a scooch after today.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments?
Good idea.
Great. All right, so I think what appropriate would be if we agree for us to, what we've done in the past is we make a motion for the chair to write a letter to the CPC, agreeing that the concept is worthy of historic preservation funds for an historically significant contributing structure in the National Register building. I guess I just made a motion.
So moved.
That's what I was just gonna-
Second.
Second? All right, any other discussion? All right, we'll do a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes, I like the disability access part. I wish I could get our other library to do that.
Mr. Lear is, were you chair of the ADA committee?
Yes.
Okay, got him coming and going. Okay. Steve?
I enthusiastically support the motion.
Thank you.
Very good. Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Wasn't that bad, was it? All right. That's great. And I'll be getting a letter out pretty quickly, and then you'll be able to attach that, to your application. Because on the application, it'll ask you, which town agency, blah, 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 and do you have any letters of support? Okay? Thank you. The next application is a concept application by the Chatham Marconi Maritime Center. Mr. Fishback, current president.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bob Fishback. Yes. Current incumbent, I believe is the way. So the Chatham Marconi Maritime Center, as you probably all know, occupies under lease two of the buildings on the Marconi North Chatham campus. The former Residence Hotel is now our education center and administrative offices, and the former operating building next door, a single story, is currently our Marconi RCA Wireless Museum. We have for some time understood that we needed to consolidate our operations as regards primarily to museum support, which is probably double talk for, we need to consolidate and improve our operation for archives preservation and retrieval. A couple of years ago, 3, 4, the CPC approved a pair of grants which allowed us to digitize most of our documentation, photographs, that sort of stuff, for access by the public. What's needed now is an area to consolidate all of our archives and collections in one place that is properly climate controlled. Several of you on this board are physically aware of the current layout. We have a very small office on the first floor, which is HVAC served, where our archivist operates. There's not enough room to store everything, so materials are stored upstairs in the attic in that building, and upstairs on the second floor of that building, and upstairs in the attic of the operating building across the way. The attic in the operating building is not climate controlled at all. There's no temperature humidity control, so that in the summer it cooks at perhaps 120 degrees Fahrenheit, even with the windows open on the gable ends. And in the winter, it has ambient outside temperature. Not the ideal place to have records and artifacts stored. The other places that things are stored are in the weather-tight rooms on the second floor, the unrenovated rooms of the old hotel building, which are used for general storage. So we want to pull that together, use two of the bedrooms, tie them together, refurbish them, serve them with appropriate climate control, and move our archives into one central area where they can be monitored, properly preserved, monitored, accessed by the public, and so forth. Right now we have some materials that require that kind of tight climate control in storage down with the Chatham Historical Society. The rest of it is catch as catch can, where we can properly store it. So we need to pull all those materials together to facilitate, as I said, public access and our ability to properly control the materials, and be in a position to receive more donations of artifacts or documentation as they may come along. I'd love to say they come along a lot, but they don't. But they do come steadily dribbling in. So the basic premise of the project is to complete a partial installation, which was done 5 years ago, I believe, on the second floor, to add heat to the rear of the building and on the second floor. But there was no AC installed at that time. To install the AC compressor for that space and properly zone it off, so we're not blowing heat all over or air conditioning into spaces we don't need, at temperatures we don't need, for energy conservation. And then to merge and renovate, as I said, two of the bedrooms upstairs. The bedrooms are 10 by 15, put two of them together. There's a closet area in between each of the bedrooms, so there would be a small piece of wall knocked out for a walkway between the two rooms. You wind up with a net usable space of about 11 by 22. And can then control that space with a tighter, small HVAC mini-split system where we could tightly control the temperature and humidity in that space, 11 by 22 space, for proper storage of 100-year-old artifacts and documents and so forth. And then to procure the necessary storage equipment for that thing. Some of that material would be, some of that renovation would involve, because it's fairly simple and easy to do, putting in some built-in shelving and cabinetry as we renovate the interior of those rooms. The rooms and the hallway that serves them out, the central hallway, would be refinished in the same manner that the downstairs is finished, so that we preserve the look and feel of the original architecture inside the building. As far as what's going on outside, I thought, when I wrote this a couple of days ago, that the document that this being the document I submitted, which is on file, that we would be locating the outside compressor of the mini-split right outside the windows of these buildings, in an area that's adjacent to the parking lot, which over time would be hidden by hedges that are in the process of growing now that it's raining again. But the plumbing contractor, Whiteley, has proposed to move or locate that mini-split compressor around behind the building in the L of the building where the current compressor is and where the second general compressor would go, so that essentially they would all be in the same area and more out of sight. So basically, there's no structural work on the exterior of the building at all.
Okay.
So the interior would be preserved as much as we could, look and feel of what's already been there, and what's been done downstairs. The final piece of the work is a thought that we had to rough finish. There is a doghouse, a penthouse on that building, which is has been partially demolished as part of the original renovation back in, I'm not sure, Frank, you could correct me, but I think that was the 1999 piece.
That wasn't, right, exactly.
The original
1990, right,
preservation of the building.
When we
To
started the
essentially drywall that in and use it for bulk storage of materials. It already has HVAC ducting fed to it from the work that was done 5 years ago. So that's a relatively simple thing to put some drywall in there, and then we can use that for storage. It can't be occupied in any sense. It only has one stairway access, so you can't occupy it per se. But you could use it for general storage and free up some space down below. So where we are with the project with CPC is, I'd love to have comments on the package if you've read it. We are still in the process of, we're waiting for my friend left. We're waiting for Mr. Rick Roy's quote for the physical construction parts. We have the quotes for the HVAC work, and we're standing by to polish up our submittal to the CPC at this point.
Okay. Well, there is a lot of precedence relative, the fact that CPC has already given you a significant amount of money to digitize, and now
Right.
what you're trying to do is preserve those documents that
Take
been
that next step.
digitized and others, especially the photographs and that kind of stuff. But, Steph, I think a number of years ago, we just recently, CPC gave money to the town to update its archive for town records, so we don't lose them. Certainly, the Historical Society has in the past,
Right.
had done archival work. So there is a lot of precedence within the CPC. There's no question, my own, relative to the historical significance of the building or the historical significance of the documents that you're trying to preserve. But anyway, that's my opinion. Having said that, Steph, any comments?
No, the whole thing I just worry about is that we've changed the date that the applications have to be in, which I think you know.
Did you see me up here tap dancing? Yes, that's added excitement and an element of danger to the whole thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other comments? Steve? Good. Don? Bob?
All in favor?
Janet? Jane?
Certainly, I'm in favor of it. I was on CPC and was able to give a lot of those grants
I guess that was a yes.
for the work.
Yes. Thank you, Jane. I see a face there. Is that Ben?
Yeah,
Ben, when did you
Yeah,
join us?
about 3-4 minutes ago.
All
I
right.
got on the stand computer and it says, I was at the meeting, but I was the only participant, and it took me a half hour to get out of that program. So here I am, for better or worse.
You know, we certainly appreciate your comments, even though it's truncated. Any comments, Ben?
No, thanks, no.
Okay. And Janet?
Just one thing. I just feel I should say that I am a member of the board of Marconi Maritime Center, and so obviously I'm in support of this, and I have no financial gain one way or the other, however the vote comes
Don't
out.
get paid for being on the board?
No, I not yet. No. But I feel this is really it's important to save its major Chatham history, and of course I support it, so.
All right. Well, I think we've got consensus, so we'll kind of take a roll call just to ensure that, you know, I get authorization from the commission to write a favorable letter in support of this CPC application.
So move. Sorry.
Thank you.
So move on that.
Second?
Second by Stephanie. No other comments? Bob?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Steph?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Jane?
Yes,
Don?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And Ben?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and the chair votes yes. Okay, so it's pretty much unanimous. Thank you very much, Bob, and
Thank you.
we'll get a letter together and provide it to you for
All right,
use.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have a couple of quick things, and then we're gonna set a record. Maybe not. Okay. Unfortunately, under old business, I still haven't been able to meet adequately with Katie, Ms. Donovan, relative to the Form Bs and the Form Ds and the Form Es. Steve, I apologize, you know, on top of this, we thought we were gonna proceed, and Jeff, the new guy who was gonna help us, has left.
What?
So he's no longer with us, so.
Already?
Yeah, so that's I don't know, and I don't know the story, other than the fact that we do have a void again, so hopefully we can open up. I know, what can I tell you? So that's item 1 and 2 in old business. Monomoy Theater, actually, it's interesting. Greg Clark, I had spoken to him because they're still trying to get potentially historical preservation money at the federal level to support the theater and the Washington Taylor House. He is actually coming before the HBDC, I think, this week, to present another update of the plans. And the current plan is, once he gets permission from the ZBA to put one of his houses up, he will then begin work on the Monomoy Theater property. So it's happening. It's just like everything else, it's slow. But hopefully we'll have the restoration of those 2 properties, the Washington Taylor House and the theater, and we'll have some kind of a theater in town again, in addition to the Chatham Theater Guild. Shouldn't forget about them, okay? The former Coast Guard boathouse, it's still up in Quincy, and
I was told it would be up all winter there still,
yes,
hopefully.
another winter, because it's taking them longer to get the permits necessary to do the pilings, to put it in, so, but hope springs eternal, you know, we're not giving up. That's it. There's no correspondence, there's no status in the change in the demolition delays. Christina?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask for an agenda item for our next meeting.
Okay,
I'm requesting that the commission have on the agenda a reconsideration of the vote that we took on 32 Ivy Lane.
okay, this is new ground for us. We have never had a reconsideration in my history, or your history. We did discuss this briefly previously at the time, and we couldn't do in my opinion, we couldn't do it at the time because there wasn't adequate notice to the applicants, et cetera, et cetera. But what Don is asking, that we post it as an agenda item. We've got some work to do, Christina. We need to discuss this with Katie relative to the process, as she sees it from a legal perspective. But at the present time, I don't think there's any legal impediment for us to request a reconsideration of a vote, but we have to get out the details. Yes?
Frank, what does this mean? What does this mean? In other words, does it mean they start all over from scratch, or?
That's TBD. I don't know. I'll be
Oh.
honest with you. What Don is asking for is the Historical Commission to reconsider its vote not to refer it to the Cape Cod Commission. So that's what he's asking,
Oh, the Cape Cod
the
Commission.
Cape Cod Commission vote.
Oh,
Now, I don't know, Don, we got to talk about this. The fact that we voted not to impose a demolition delay is a separate issue.
That's correct.
But you're asking for the reconsideration for
Right.
referral to the Cape Cod Commission.
Exactly, and
again.
the town attorney has opined on it, and there's a letter from him that we can reference if we need to.
So there's a due process here, which we've got to find a little bit more about, and
Frank, could I just ask, I've recused, obviously, but just as a process issue, since the zoning board changed what was approved from what we had approved, is that something that ought to happen sort of automatically?
well, that's a good question, and,
I don't know the answer.
I don't know the answer to that. My opinion, personally, or at least my understanding, is the ZBA asks the commission for comments, okay? Unfortunately, they asked me the day before the meeting, and I didn't, I couldn't do anything. This goes back to the whole process of the order, the precedence of how applications are heard. But having said that, in my opinion, the ZBA kind of trumps us. Okay, we could, and this is the past, we have decided something, we don't want to do that, the ZBA says, yes, we're doing it. So that's what we have to find out. But Don is asking a different question. This has nothing to do relative to the, whether or not we approve or not approve what was actually approved by ZBA, but the actual referral of the whole application back to the Cape Cod Commission. We have authority to do that. Now, we didn't do it at the time of the meeting, so I don't know, and I have to find out what that means. Yes, Steve?
Can I assume there must be some time limitations on it?
We'll have to find out.
At some point in time, the applicant ought to have his approval and get his permits, et cetera, is it 2 months or 3 months, is it 2 years? It's kind of, puts somebody in a tough spot, so it puts a number of people in a tough spot. But it's something that we probably ought to refer to the town council for.
That's exactly what I'm going to do. After this meeting, I think Ms. Donovan is in a staff meeting, but I'll ask her to put something together to town council to find out what we can do or not do. What our limits of our authority are.
It's like what we can do, but based on time limitations too as well. I mean, if we could do it, but could we do it 6 months later?
Yes.
I think that's critical.
I think the town council said in a timely manner.
Yes, in a timely manner. Typical attorney's answer.
It's attorney talk, sure.
Yeah, there was no, in his, and I'm almost positive, I did share that letter with everybody. But we'll dig it out again, and I'll go back to Ms. Donovan and request the town council to opine again relative to what we're doing and give us some guidance.
Because timely manner has now come into consideration, I think.
Right.
But if we already voted it, what, I don't understand, what, we didn't like the vote, so we hope for a different vote?
One of the members of the commission is asking for reconsideration of a previous vote.
Okay.
Well, I'm sort of stuck on the thing. We voted on something different than the zoning board did.
Oh, yes.
Doesn't the town need approval from the historical commission to go ahead?
No.
So why do it?
Yeah, what?
Let's all resign.
The
The word was coming to mind.
The ZBA trumps us. The ZBA trumps us. The ZBA trumps conservation. The ZBA trumps, other boards and commissions. That technically
why would
is
we-
a
why would we-
quasi-judicial board. We're not. I'm sorry.
Why would we do it then, Frank? Why would we do that?
Why would we even do it?
Yeah.
Well, you can ask that question, yes, but we do it.
Oh.
No,
We change it, we reconsider our votes?
I'm sorry.
We reconsider our votes? In other words, we voted on this.
Never done that before.
So why would we do it now?
Because a member of the commission, Mr. Aikman, has asked us to put it on the agenda to discuss it.
Oh, okay. So
When we
in
did
general or this specific case?
specific 32 Ivory Lane. I don't disagree with you, but there's a process. When Mr. Aikman asked for it at the particular time, I said, I don't think that's appropriate, being because the applicant has left. And then we went to the town attorney, and we asked, what are the conditions that a member could ask for reconsideration? And he basically said, yes, a member could ask for reconsideration of a vote if it's done in a timely manner, and it is an agenda item, and it is posted legally, and the applicant has notice. So that's what's going to happen.
Is this timely?
Well, that's the decision.
6 months later?
That's the decision that the attorney has to make.
And I would say it could be timely because the zoning board approved something that we didn't.
And it's not 6 months, it's just a couple,
It's less than 6 months.
yeah, it's less than 6 months. It's just a couple of,
Obviously, Don thought this meeting was too short, and he wanted to. So, look, guys, I'm trying to be fair, and, I'm just the chair, and. Say again?
That's best not on the record.
Okay. One last thing, if we could, and I have that done, we need some work, I have to do some work. One thing that unfortunately, before Michelle left, we were working on the current application, the discussion of changes. Christina and I know we've got to revisit that, okay? We need to update the application. If you remember from the last meeting when Rick Roy was here, there was a lot of confusion on how to calculate, and so we need to update the applications. At a minimum, we have to separate 158 from the Cape Cod Commission because it gets too confusing. So that's just something else we're going to be working on, at least from my perspective. And everything else we thought we would have Mr. Jeff do is put on hold again until they hire somebody else, and that's where we are. All right, I think a motion to adjourn would be appropriate.
So move.
I'll second.
A roll call, Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Ben? We lose him? Jane?
No.
Yes,
Don?
Yes.
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 Janet?
Yes.
And yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much.